Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has been appealing to government officials and political leaders to come forward with information which could assist the work of the Commission. For more on this story, we're joined and would like to welcome in the studio by Mr. Chris Matlhako, who is the SACP Second Deputy General Secretary. Thank you so much for making it this morning.
Thank you very much, Tessa.
It was an interesting announcement at the weekend from Limpopo by your leader that you will now give information to the Commission.
Yeah, well, Comrade Blade, as a General Secretary of the party, made the announcement also as a result of a discussion that had taken place in the Politburo, and he was mandated to make that the party will, in the coming days, approach the Commission so that whatever information it has and its own experiences during the process of the state capture ramification, it is able to bring those to the attention of the Commission, and maybe this might shed light on some of the other important issues that have been happening to our democracy, and indeed to some of the things that we've been putting across, you know, defense of our constitutionalism, defense of our democracy itself.
The South African Communist Party hasn't been completely removed from the conversation about state capture. Have you had a conversation about the possible implication of your own members?
We have, and we'll continue to do that. And that's why we think it will be important for anybody who was in the leading organs of both the states, SOEs and elsewhere to deem it fit as and when approached, but also on their own volition to approach the Commission so that they're able to put that across. If we don't do that, there might be issues and other things that will not come to light that will be difficult to deal with when we go forward. And the reason why we, as a party, called for a judicial commission of inquiry is that you give it a judicial status, you know, and that it has important legal and other things to stand on. And that's why it's important for us.
You don't have confidence in the courts?
We do, and that's why we thought it was important to have a judicial commission of inquiry.
So you say that you're worried about being upstanding citizens and law-abiding, following the Constitution, but what were the real reasons that this decision was taken? Well, what were your concerns in the background? I'm trying to get the backstory.
It was a connection of many things. You would also know that we felt as a party that our democracy was being denuded. We felt that there were decisions that were taken outside of the state, and that what was developing was what is called a deep state, you know, where a shadow state exists, and we were just on the verge of a mafia state. I mean, people being...
Is that your current concern, or is that your...
It was always
our feeling.
Has been
your concern for a while?
It has always been our feeling. I mean, how else could you have interpreted the sacking of the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party as the Minister of Higher Education at the point? And maybe others, including people like Pravin Gordhan and others, Lynn Brown and others. And I'm not trying to suggest that all of this entailed the same kind of parameters. But we always had an inclination. But one of the other things, Des, is that what we know in a deep state is that what the key characteristic of a deep state is the denuding of the security apparatus. We experienced that when the General Secretary and other leading members of the party were, in our view, spied upon, their phones tapped, and all of those things. And we know what that does. It's the undermining, as we said, of...
Yeah, we had an example yesterday at the Pretoria court, the acquittal of Ahmad Ramat and Shadrach, the head of the Hawks in Gauteng, where there is a case, but there isn't really a case, and there's political innuendos in terms of how that case came about. What is the current SACP interaction with the Tripartite Alliance, which in a way, at a level, gives you influence in government?
Well, we, as a party man, we've been leading this process, but also engaging the African National Congress. And I think the ANC officials this weekend had a retreat, and they were also dealing and engaging these matters deeply And we think the ANC has embraced the very notion. So it's up to the ANC to make a call of whether they as an organization will go forward and approach the commission itself to make their own representation, including some other things that have been put across as which the ANC might think, they would require a rebuttal and or affirmation.
So I suppose the question to ask is, what kind of submissions are you going to make? Is there any new information?
It will be multifaceted. It will be new. For example, to the extent to which, we think the security apparatus have been misused. It became a terrain of huge battles and other things. But also it will be corroborating certain things. For example, how other people were kicked out of cabinet and how decisions were made in appointments in cabinet and etc.
You sure this is not about settling scores?
We don't think so. We don't want to venture into that space. We are seeking to assist the commission. We are also seeking to assist the country to move forward. You will remember that we also in the process mobilized broader society behind just that defense of our constitutionalism and our democracy, because we felt at the point there was a real threat of it going the other way. And all of this, came on the background of us having been the people that had sponsored Jacob Zuma as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. So why now? Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has been making the call right from inception that people should bring information forward. Why now?
I think what has been revealed up to date is also seeking to suggest that there are many other dots to connect. And therefore, in that regard, I can just give you an example. I suppose there should have been some cabinet discussions and things, and we are not in a position to put that across of how, for example, the nuclear deal was pushed through or sought to be put through with members of cabinet and etc. There are those things that we are not privy to. But we think if other people can come through, if other people
Are there really things within the African National Congress that the SACP is not privy to?
The ANC is our alliance partner. We have engagements at different levels, and we're confident that the ANC also has confidence in us. Okay.
I would really love to continue with this conversation, but unfortunately we're time tight. But one of the dots, you spoke about connecting the dots, and one of the dots that's really in the conversation space right now is the future of Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene. What conversation is the SACP having about this development?
Well, at this point, we think we want the president to make the call because it's his prerogative to appoint and or dismiss.
Absolutely, but what are your thoughts?
We're talking about the matter, and we think there are other issues related to that, and we don't want to preempt a discussion on the matter, but we have a perspective. For example, we've been calling for non-performing cabinet members to be kicked out of cabinet, and we've named people, but at this point we don't want to muddy the waters. We also want to give the president...
All right, quickly tell us, what are the SACP's preparations in terms of appearing at the commission?
We're going to approach the secretary of the commission, write to them, place the parameters of our presentation, and they'll give us a date and other things. And we are in the process of collating and putting all of the important information together, which we will then make available to the Commission.
We'll be looking out for that story. Chris Matlhako, thank you so much for making the time. Chris is the second Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist.